Hey, good morning. It is the 18th of February, 2019. It is Washington's birthday today. This is a very unusual holiday. I think it falls like on the third Monday of the month in February. And since when do people have birthdays coordinated like that? They don't. It's the third Wednesday of every month. That's really an odd uh, way to place a birthday, and it makes me wonder what Washington's birthday really is. Hey Google, what is Washington's birthday?
I don't know Washington Mutual's birthday yet, but I'll remember if you say something like Washington Mutual's birthday is May 18th.
Hey Google, what is President Washington's birthday?
George Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732.
Okay, so George Washington was born on February 22nd. Uh, what was that? 1732. um, wow, that was a long time ago. And that, believe it or not, his birthday is not today. His birthday is on the 22nd, which is 4 days from now. And what I think is odd too is I'm not entirely sure how to celebrate Washington's birthday. Maybe I need a birthday cake. I'm not sure if there's much of a tradition that surrounds Washington's birthday. I might have to check the news and see how other people are marking today's amazing day, amazing holiday. I think it mostly just is a federal holiday, probably honoring our founding fathers and um, President George Washington. That might be it. So, how are you doing today, Am? What's going on with you? What's on your mind these days? I'm curious to know. What's on my mind these days? Well, all kinds of stuff, I guess. Mostly it's just gratitude for how great I have it lately. Things have been going really well for me, and I'm so pleased. Um, I'm feeling happy and healthy. I'll be going to the gym later on today. I was thinking that, any person who can arrange going to the gym 5 days a week is pretty special. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. Not everybody can pull that off. Or, if they do, it's sporadic. But, I was able to pull it off at least once last week. And my goal is to pull it off this week. And I'm not sure how successful I'll be, but I think it's entirely possible that I can do the same thing again. So kudos to me. I attribute this ability to accomplish this goal to a few things. One of which, believe it or not, is my singleness. And I know I'll probably get a lot of flack, but it's so much easier to act in ways that support my own health and well-being as a single person. And you might ask yourself, well, why? Why would it be easier to act on behalf of myself if it's only me who have to consider? Well, that's the question that almost answers itself, if you ask me. Um, the fact is, when I'm not considering another person's needs, it's just easier to focus on my own. I'm not distracted by another person's problems or issues or interests or wants or desires. It's only me. And that's great, in the sense of valuing myself, loving myself, and, helping myself accomplish whatever goals I seek, you know. And it's incredibly liberating. It's really it's pretty amazing. It's amazing to be in a place where, a few choice actions can help me achieve the goals that I want to achieve, when I want to achieve them, and how I want to achieve them. Yeah. It's pretty remarkable. I remember being married. I've been married twice. And in a marriage, at least when you're living with your mate, it was always a challenge for me to get away and do what I wanted. I mean, without compromise, right? Because, when you're in a partnership with someone else, you're always negotiating about what to do. And so, there's a give and take there. Hopefully there's a balance between the two partners, and, you're able to sort of exchange freedom, right? And sort of make trade-offs relating to your desires. But more often than not, what happens is that you often get 80 or 90% of what you want, but never 100%. Unless the other person is gone altogether, and even when, say, the other person has departed on vacation or something like that, I think there probably still some residual inhibition that exists, even when you're totally alone. When your partner is gone for a while, say on vacation or on a business trip. So it really is quite a unique situation to be just completely free to do what I want, when I want to do it, and how I want to do it. And so I think it's my singleness which I attribute the most to my ability to achieve the goal of working out 5 days a week. Now, that's not to say that people who are in who are coupled can't work out 5 days a week, because I'm sure there are plenty of people who do. But I think the challenge is significantly greater. See, sometimes what happened last week was, I had a few instances where I had like meetings or appointments cut into my lunch period, which is when I usually go to the gym. And so I had to reschedule time in the afternoon after work to hit the gym. And, as a singleton, that's easy to do. All it takes is a decision. I'm like, after work, instead of going home, I'll go direct to the gym. And first of all, that's kind of a hard thing to do anyway. But if I had a mate, I think that would be a much, much harder thing to organize. Harder thing to do. I'd have to call up the phone, use the phone, and notify the other person quite often that I'll be, an hour or 2 hours late to dinner or something like that. So there's extra complications as a coupled person as opposed to being a single person. And, the thing about working out regularly, say 5 out of 7 days a week, is that, you often run into schedule conflicts. Yeah. And so you got to shift things around. It takes some skill and determination, right, to work out at the gym on a regular basis. So anyway, I'm really proud of that accomplishment. And like I said, I think my singleness probably makes it most probable, or made it really possible. Now, the question arises, if I'm so impressed by the virtue of working out 5 days a week, why haven't I been able to do it sooner? I'm like 47 years old, and I think this is the very first time in my life that I have worked out 5 days a week. Well, I think part of it was determination and passion and interest. But, also the fact that I'm not coupled right now, I think is rather significant. So anyway, things are going really well. Today, I was debating about whether to bake a pumpkin pie or oatmeal and raisin cookies. This is the big dilemma in my life right now. Should I bake a pumpkin pie or should I bake oatmeal raisin cookies? This is the critical question that's been on my mind. And whether I should bake those things before my workout or after my workout. Yeah, so that's kind of funny. Let's see what else has been going on. Well, I did laundry this morning and that was nice. It's really cold lately. Holy cow. I think the whole country is kind of freezing. Today it was like 42 degrees early this morning. 42 degrees for me, that's really cold. And I think I checked the weather in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the weather was like 19 degrees or some crazy cold temperature. I don't know how people do it, man. In New Mexico, not anymore. I can't wait till it starts warming up. I have a feeling that it'll warm up pretty fast. Maybe, maybe as early as next week or the week after. But let me tell you, I think it's going to be really beautiful when the sun starts shining more and it starts getting a lot warmer. With all this rain that we've had in the last couple of weeks, I can just imagine the blades of grass and the flowers just bursting. I mean, it's going to be an amazing wildflower season this year. Yeah, my friends at the Botanic Society are going to have a ball observing all the new flowers on the hillsides. Yeah, in fact, I have a feeling it's going to be just outstandingly beautiful. In fact, I might want to take some car rides out to the Carrizo Plain and maybe out to Figueroa Mountain to check out the wildflowers as they bloom. Because I have a feeling what's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks when it comes to wildflowers is just an amazing, spectacular rainbow array of flowers that maybe you'll be able to see from space. Maybe they'll take photographs from the International Space Station just to show us the wildflowers, how they look from space. I don't know. I think it's feasible. Why not? So that's pretty exciting to me. The coming wildflower season. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And not only wildflowers, but, with all the rain, water brings life. And so we're going to have tons and tons of insects, lots of birds and lizards and rabbits and squirrels and foxes and bears. And I don't know how many bears we got, but we're going to have all kinds of animals just living large over the next couple of months. This spring is going to be amazing. And if climate change has anything to say about this summer and autumn, it's probably going to be blazing hot. Oh, gosh. Blazing hot. So it's nice to have this sweet relief of moisture, precipitation over the last few weeks. Nobody is really complaining about it. I've heard people just expressing a lot of thankfulness for all of the dams and watersheds that have been filling up with water. We've got places like lakes, Cachuma Lake. I think Cachuma Lake is like at 57% capacity right now, which is super high. I remember just a couple years back during the height of the drought, Cachuma Lake was at like 6%. I think it was in six digits. It's single digits. I think it was maybe like 9% filled. It was really rough. A lot of people were concerned about it. And now it's like 57% filled, which is amazing. And I have a sense that from a measurement standpoint, the rainfall we've been getting it's turning into like at least a normal year, or maybe even a better than normal year in terms of precipitation. So really, for all animal and plant life on this side of the United States, on the western side of the United States, these rains are pretty amazing and wonderful. So glad that the Arctic Circle let loose its river of atmosphere and allowed us some of the moisture down here in the deserts of Southern California, this Mediterranean climate, which, you know, I wish was a little bit more moist. Personally, I grew up in the high desert, Emily, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and in Taos, New Mexico, and it's awful. It was awful dry. I mean, we had a nice share of rain, and while I was younger, but over the last few years, it's been getting drier and drier out there. I know some of the ski resorts have been struggling with getting the snow that they need to, keep their skier patrons happy. Anyway, water is always a good thing. I'm loving the water, and it's good for plants, animals. It's good for humans. Water is good. In fact, tell you the truth, if I had it my way, I think it would be awesome if human beings could control the rains. And if we could, I have a feeling that we'd have regular rainfall. I mean, if I was controlling the rains, we'd probably have rainfall Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week. A half inch of rain every maybe even every rainfall. We'd get that water falling, and I mean, if you could imagine what it would do for the wildlife and for the plants out there, that would be amazing. You would think that human beings would have a grip on rainfall and have some control, try to exact control over precipitation in certain areas. But we just haven't figured it out or gotten to the point where, we say we want to control the rain. I don't know. Sounds like a slam dunk to me if we can do that. We have plenty of water on this planet to make every square inch of the surface, the land surface, just an amazing paradise of greenery and animal life and plant life. We could do it if we all tried collectively. I guess we're just a little bit too preoccupied with fighting one another, being upset. I would sure like a paradise planet. It's entirely possible we could pull one together. It's kind of funny as a human being to know that there's that much potential out there, that we could turn our Earth into a paradise planet if we so chose. And we somehow decide collectively not to do it. So much loss, so much potential out there. We could have, the Romans had an amazing system of water distribution. We even did water distribution in Egypt, ancient Egypt. And of course, the projects that we've got going now far supersede what the Romans or the Egyptians ever did. But I think we could do a lot more. We have the technology. We've got concrete. We've got sufficient concrete. We've got the earth-moving tools. We can pull together amazing infrastructure of waterways and viaducts and aqueducts. We could pull something together. I think the real catch, though, would be figuring out a way to make precipitation happen on the land in places that we choose. I'm not sure how we could do it. Maybe we could use microwaves or seeding somehow. What is it? Silver iodide or something, which is what people use. Hopefully we could come up with some kind of better technology that would make it possible. The question really is, how do we pull water vapor out of the air? I don't know. I guess I'm not going to be able to come up with a solution right now, but I think collectively we could. We've got the scientific know-how today to make it happen. And if we ever do figure it out, how to make rain wherever how to make rainfall happen wherever we want on the surface of the planet, it will be a glad day. It'll be an amazing day. Yeah, it would be an amazing day. The start of a new era, a new green revolution. That's for sure. Yeah, that would be nice. So let's see. I figured that what we could do is do a little bit of a question and answer session. And let's see what question I'm on here. I'm on question 268. And question 268 reads, what's your fancy? Bird watching, butterfly collecting, flower hunting, shell gathering, or star gazing? Well, I would think that my fancy is stargazing. I love looking at the stars and trying to figure out what the names of the stars are and the constellations. So stargazing is definitely number one on the list. As for bird watching, butterfly collecting, flower hunting, and shell gathering, here's the thing about the collecting and gathering of shells and butterflies. You know, shells and butterflies are, in my view, limited resources, and I wouldn't want to tamper with, certainly I wouldn't want to kill a butterfly, for goodness sake, just for my interests. Just to satisfy my curiosity. And I certainly wouldn't want to gather shells at the beach. There are already plenty of people gathering shells at the beach, and I think they do so in a non-sustainable, unplanned way. So it's just not a good idea, I think. Flower hunting, if I'm going to do any kind of flower hunting, it would just be observing wildflowers, figuring out where they happen, sort of deciding on what kind of flower they are, hiking around and enjoying the mountains. Yeah. So now bird watching, that's something I have yet to get into. I have had occasion to do some bird watching. And in fact, I have purchased some materials to help me bird watch. I think I've purchased some binoculars one time, or maybe I purchased a guidebook to North American birds. I think it was published by the Audubon Society. And, I just haven't made time to do it. I do look at birds. I mean, my favorite bird is the raven, right? Or the crow. And in a way, I sort of have an enjoyable, casual relationship with the ravens, outside my door. I mean, you might recall, Emily, how, we would, when we were walking to school in the mornings, when you were in elementary school, how, we'd look at the ravens and talk to them and enjoy them and observe them as they observed us. And ravens are very intelligent birds. And I've always been sort of enamored by ravens, and they're just everywhere, and they're also quite beautiful and intelligent. And, I admire them and respect them. And I'm glad to see them out there. In fact, I can hear a raven squawking right now. Or cawing. Is that what they do? They caw. But the kind of bird watching I happen to do on a regular basis is just looking at birds as they fly overhead. In fact, interestingly, I actually have a sinking feeling that I see fewer birds today as an adult than I did as a child. And, I kind of wonder what's happening to bird populations. I hear these stories in the news about how insect populations are really suffering right now. And I wonder to myself how that's affecting bird populations. And, it's a troubling trend when I read news articles about the number of insects declining. This is a really big problem, and I really hope that it gets people's attention. Actually, I don't quite know what's causing this decline in insect populations, but I have suspicions that it's related to things like climate change and maybe pesticide use. I think those are probably the two dominant reasons that insects populations are declining. I don't know. I'm not a scientist myself, and I haven't really read up on the subject, so I really couldn't tell you what the real reason for insects declining populations are. I really hope that human beings can get a handle on this problem as soon as possible. I have a feeling that insects are really critical to our the web of life, and if insects go away, I also have a sense that it would make human beings in our life on this planet a lot more limiting and a lot more limited, and increases the potential for our extinction of the human species. I'm serious. Insects in particular. I think there are a lot of ways that insects impact our lives as human beings that we just do not acknowledge. I don't think we have the appreciation for what insects do and how critical they are to the maintenance of our food webs. Insects are eaten by amphibians, they're eaten by birds, they're eaten by other insects. Insects are critical. They help break down waste products. They help make soil possible. And soil is where we get food as human beings. So this major disruption in the food webs is a problem. And I have a feeling it's going to get worse before it gets better. Human beings have a tendency to mess up stuff inadvertently quite often, even though we don't necessarily intend to do it. Sometimes our technology or techniques or society or civilization just makes it impossible for other living things to thrive. So hopefully human beings can get a handle on this declining insect population problem. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is 269. What is your favorite fast food restaurant and how often do you go there? Okay, for the most part, I don't visit fast food restaurants. I think I can say that pretty definitively. I essentially eat every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home. Now, if I don't eat it at home, say if I'm eating it at work, I will prepare a sack lunch or a sack dinner. I'll even prepare a sack breakfast. I've been known to prepare sack meals, 3-4 days at a time. And, I don't go to restaurants that often. Restaurants actually don't appeal to me very much. I mean, sometimes I love the food, but every restaurant has its peculiarities. One thing I don't care for about restaurants is you're really never ever sure about what you're eating. Like I know some people have a sense like, oh yeah, I know what I just ordered, but it's really not clear, particularly from a calorie counting standpoint. I'm a calorie counter myself, and I know all too well that all it takes is a few teaspoons of oil in a dish. And that can drastically change the calorie content of the dish without changing flavor or texture or taste. It's really easy to affect the calorie count of a dish. It doesn't take much, just maybe a spread of mayonnaise, maybe a spread of peanut butter. And you can jack up the calorie content on a meal by 200, 300, 400 calories. Yeah, you might add a layer of sugar or something, which isn't a problem, but maybe like a bit of chocolate or something like that. And you can very quickly, chocolate is highly caloric. You can very quickly take a meal and put it into the stratosphere. Now, it doesn't take much. I mean, cheese, for example. Cheese is a really good example because it's such a high calorie food. Just a little bit of cheese. And I'm talking just a little bit of cheese, like an ounce or something, easily can add 100 calories to a meal. And an ounce of cheese, at least by today's standards, is not that much cheese. So I don't like to go eating out that much. It's really, like I mentioned, it's really tough to figure out what it is exactly you've got in front of you. Now, invariably, it tastes good. Invariably, I want to eat it. I mean, that's not a problem. There's another aspect of eating out at restaurants too that bothers me a little bit, and that is the expense. It's expensive. These burgers that cost $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10. I mean, even at a regular restaurant, a mid-level restaurant, it's easy for a burger to top $12, $13, $14, $15. I'm serious. So, and you get the burger, you get the fries, maybe you get a side of coleslaw or something like that, mashed potatoes or whatever, French fries or whatever it is, along with a drink. And if that drink has calories in it too, I mean, you could easily top 1,000 calories in one meal on one plate, which I know to most people who go to restaurants is not a big deal. Hey, that's part of restaurant culture. 1,000 calorie meals, 1,000 calories on your plate is no big deal. But I have seen examples of not just 1,000 calories on your plate, but 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 calories on one plate. On one plate. And that is sometimes before dessert. I know. It blows me away just how many calories they can pack on a plate. Today's foods, particularly processed foods, are so calorific that, you could, it's easy to take in hundreds and hundreds of calories without even thinking twice about it. So anyway, that's a big part of the reason that I don't go eat out. The expense and the unknown level of calories in the food. Otherwise, eating at restaurants is amazing. and there's no mystery as to why people do it. I mean, who wants to spend a lot of time in the kitchen? I mean, I don't. Who wants to wash dishes? I don't. Who wants to eat the same thing every day? I mean, I don't. I really like the discovering new foods and enjoying new food preparations, new ideas, in the realm of food. I mean, there's a lot of enjoyment there. But there are some risks, serious risks. I mean, it's no mystery to me why the obesity epidemic has become such an issue or such a factor. I mean, the current eating culture of today is just out of control. It's just out of control. Yeah. It really is an amazing time to be alive as a person who eats food, because we've got all these amazing food scientists, all these geneticists that are pulling together amazing fruits and vegetables. We have these culinary masters who are putting together baked goods that are just fine examples of decoration and flavor that is just really spectacular. I mean, never before have I seen such amazing creations coming out of kitchens. These cooks and chefs today are just, thrillingly alive with creativity. And hey, I notice it. I see it. I don't go to restaurants all the time, but when I do, I'm often blown away by the flavors, the colors, the decoration. just blown away, and by the bill. I'm blown away by the bill too. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Oh boy, but yeah, I do like restaurants. They're definitely a special thing to go for and enjoy. You know, though some, I personally don't go to them any more often than maybe once or twice a month. But there are people who go to them once or twice a day. Yeah, yeah. So I don't see the solution to obesity arriving quickly, even though it's a pretty serious problem. But it's going to be some kind of portion control strategy, whether it's intermittent fasting or who knows what it'll be. Maybe everyone will be using smart apps, artificial intelligence. Maybe there will be programs that are software that is able to ascertain the calorie content of a dish when you take a picture of it with your cellular telephone. Who knows? I can only hope that is the case. But who knows? Who knows what'll happen? I don't know how things will get better. So I don't know. I'll tell you what, this vacation I've had has been pretty amazing. I'm so glad to have Monday off, Washington's birthday. I don't know, I just feel really satisfied about the time off that I've had lately, the time off from work. It's been really upbuilding, edifying as a person. And I've gotten a lot of satisfaction from the free time that I'm enjoying. And it's just wonderful, really. I feel really privileged to have it. I want to spend more time reading books today. That's one of the special challenges I got. Maybe after I go to the gym. It's kind of funny. Reading is so important to me, and I don't schedule it into my day as I ought to. What is up with that? Something as important as reading is something that I take for granted, and I don't schedule it in my day. I mean, even today, I neglected to do my 30 minutes of reading in the morning. I really regret having done that. So maybe I'll make that a really high priority. After I finish this video, I might do some reading. Just sit down, read for 30 minutes, and then move on to the rest of my day. I think I might do that just as a way to sort of respect that habit and make sure that it continues. Yeah, it's that important. Yeah, but lately I have been considering how important reading in general is to me, and it's something I'm starting to get passionate about. I'm just starting to get passionate about it. Here's the thing about reading. With reading comes opportunity cost, which means that when I'm reading, I pretty much can't do anything else. Can pretty much not do anything else. And it's limiting in that sense. I can't do a lot of multitasking. I guess I could do some. Like, I think right now I'm doing the laundry. So I could be reading right now and doing laundry, and that is a kind of multitasking. I don't know. The question is, how much should I read every day? And the answer is really not clear. I'm not sure how much I should be reading. Right now I'm reading about 30 minutes to an hour. I hope to read at least an hour a day, but last night I thought about engaging in some reading prior to bedtime, but I was just too tired. This reading at nighttime doesn't always get done, I'm finding. What I might really just have to do is just continuously remind myself about my goals during the day. I want to do that hour of reading. I want to do some videography, take some photographs, do some writing, clean the house, do the laundry, Maybe I just have to reprioritize it in my brain. In order to do that, I think what I'll have to do is really get clear about what benefits I might accrue when reading regularly every day. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Reading can be hit or miss. I know when I read, sometimes I come up with golden nuggets of wisdom that is life changing. And, I'm just a changed man after I read it. And, I wouldn't trade those moments for anything. But then there are other times when I sit down to read and, nothing special happens. A lot of it is sort of reminders and rehashes of old information. And, that's valuable too. It's important to get those reminders in to sort of reinforce that information, reinforce that data, reinforce that sort of connection with the data. It's about brain training, right? You're learning new ways to maneuver in the world. Or, you're just enjoying yourself. Like I mentioned before, I've been listening to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in my car lately. I obtained an audiobook from my local library, and I've been enjoying listening to the CD set in my car. Really, for the most part, it's just enjoying. I'm just enjoying it. It's about being familiar with personalities and people, and I don't know. It's like being familiar with I don't know how a story unfolds, a writer's style, the writer's words. So let's see what the next question is. So the next question is question number 270. What's the name of your favorite magazines? What do you like most about it? Well, I actually do have a favorite magazine. And my favorite magazine is Martha Stewart Living. I know. What a funny magazine for to be my favorite. Well, here's the reason. There are, of course, a lot of reasons why I like Martha Stewart Living. But I think of Martha Stewart and her company and the people who she does business with. I think of them as like engineers. They're like the design engineers of home decor. And I don't know. I just honor and respect the learning and creativity that comes along with producing the content of those magazines. They may cover bedspreads, or they may cover food, like holiday recipes or something. And what comes out for me of a Martha Stewart Living magazine is this sense of home and specialness and attention and care. It's really care. I almost call it's like an engineering sensibility. Engineers, as a rule, focus on the details, right? And they want to get it right. And, they're focused on the reasons, and they're looking at problems creatively. I have a sense that these home care professionals at Martha Stewart Living are basically like home engineers. And I think they also have a sense of the sublime, in the sense that they have a sense of what home is. It's like the hearth, it's also something to be honored and respected. It's it's more than just decor. It's like an emotional. I get drawn in to some of the emotional aspects of the creativity that's going on in the home. And I find it very appealing. I feel at peace. I look at them. I look at the photographs, and I can often spend just minutes just observing the photographs in that magazine. And and the writing to me is also quite pleasant to listen to or to read. It's very, it's actually it's not informal. It's more of a formal writing. It's informing. It's I don't know. I feel like there's real content that's being transmitted through the written word, and it's not just it's just not fluff. So anyway, when I read that magazine, I feel like I'm learning something. And I don't know, I do appreciate this stereotypical sense of what home is and what makes it valuable. Yeah. So that's my favorite magazine, Martha Stewart Living. One thing I have been learning is that I can get access to magazines online, digital magazines, using RB Digital. And Emily, I don't know if you're aware of this app, but if you aren't, I hope that you do become aware of it, because it is an amazing resource, and it gets me access to magazines that I like to read, like National Geographic, The Economist, and Martha Stewart Living, and just great resources. I think what I want to do is I want to maybe spend some time sharing some articles with you. I could probably instant message them. I could mark those magazine covers up and give you some insight into my thinking about the stories. And, that might be a lot of fun if I can send you some photographs of some of the magazines I'm reading. Now, here's the thing about magazines. I typically don't buy magazines. Now, I do have a subscription to Psychology Today, but I think I'm going to let that subscription expire. It turns out I just am not reading the magazine. I'm not sure what is up with that, because psychology is one of my favorite subjects, and you'd think that I would go completely wild when reading a Psychology Today magazine, but I don't. For some reason, I don't indulge. Quite often, the issue might just be that I spend a lot of my time sort of rushing between tasks, doing one thing and another, trying to get it all done. And, I think I spend less time just relaxing, hanging out, reading magazines. With RB Digital, with that app, I think I'm going to be more inclined to spend more time reading magazines. And so that might be good. In fact, it will be good. I'm convinced it's going to be awesome. It'll be amazing. Of course, it'll be amazing. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so that question was, what is my magazine and what do you like most about it? All right, I described it. It was Martha Stewart Living, and what I like about it is the engineering aspect of home decor and home planning. Question number 271. What's the worst movie you've ever seen, and who did you see it with? I don't know. The worst movie that I've ever seen. There's some movies that actually a lot of people really like, but I don't care for. The worst movie that I've ever seen. When I was in college, I took a few movie classes, movie appreciation classes. And by the way, I just loved those classes. First off, they were amazing courses, and I learned a lot in them. One class I took was called Film Noir. It was about the noir film style, and we watched a lot of movies, and I really enjoyed that class. There's a lot to know. And then I also took another film class in horror. I think I took horror films, and that was amazing too. I really love these film classes. And while I was interested in films, I would go see other films. This is when I was in college, and there were some films that I saw that just didn't appeal to me. And the ones that didn't appeal to me were the ones that were very, very artistic. And what that means is that they were so artistic that there wasn't much story going on. There wasn't much of any character development. A lot of the movie was, it was scenes that were edited in sort of quick succession. It's just so puzzling and unusual. It was sort of like an experiment. And so I didn't necessarily enjoy those films. Yeah, sure, I appreciated some of the patterns and the lighting and the characters, if there were any. But I don't know, I just found it pretty limiting not to sort of have any kind of story at all. Sometimes I wasn't even sure what was going on. And I wasn't able to make any sense of it. I wasn't able to create any meaning around what was going on. And who knows, maybe there was some meaning to be made to those people watching the movie. And I was just not in the know enough to sort of figure it out. So, being lost in the midst of a movie, particularly if the movie is a really long movie, is a challenge for me. Yeah. So what's the next question? Oh, who did I go to see it with? When I go see these artistic movies, it's not unusual for me to go to the movies alone. Next question. 272. When driving, are you more likely to listen to the radio, to CDs, to tapes, or nothing at all, and why? So when I'm driving, I think what's most likely is I listen to the radio, just what's on the radio. And the reason is because it's convenient. It's always on, it's always there. And so I'll listen to the radio. Now, if I have my druthers, then I would be listening to a CD, maybe an audiobook. And if I'm not listening to a CD, like a CD of music or a CD audiobook, then it's very likely that I am using Bluetooth, and I'm streaming from my smartphone to the radio over Bluetooth some music or an audiobook that I've saved on my smartphone. That's most of the time what I do. I mean, those three things and that's really how often it happens. Number one, it's radio. Number two, it's CDs. And number three, it's Bluetooth streaming from my cell phone. Yeah. That's primarily how I get content when I'm driving. Now, here's the thing, and something I've discovered rather recently, and that is, while I enjoy having this content available when I'm driving, it's nice to be entertained by stories or music. I'm also finding that I'm really enjoying just the silence. Quite often I like to fall into my own daydreams when I drive, or I like to sort of strategize and think and do problem solving when I'm driving. It's just, and sometimes I find that either daydreaming or problem solving when I'm driving is more desirable than listening to music or listening to an audiobook. In fact, I've actually been kind of surprised lately about how often I like to just drive in silence. There's something about sitting back, enjoying the scenery as it passes by, and then allowing whatever come to the forefront of your mind and allowing yourself to think about it. The thing about the radio and audiobooks and CDs is that it's pretty formulaic in the sense that it's controlled, it's scripted. It's not wild. When you set up an audiobook to listen to, you're listening to the audiobook. It's some kind of a planned endeavor, and quite often it takes intention, concentration, to focus on the material and to understand the progression of the story, how it unfolds. And that takes a lot of mental work when you're driving. When I'm driving, I'm trying to focus on the road, right? On the cars that are around me. And that, first of all, is a big chunk of work. I mean, that takes 50 to 80 to 90% of my attention. And, driving also takes, listening to an audiobook also takes attention. It takes at least 20% of my attention to pay attention to an audiobook, to pay attention to the story and visualize that story and sort of understand all the aspects of it. It's a feat of intellectual capability to be able to do both, right? To drive and to listen to an audiobook at the same time. And so, sometimes I don't like to work so hard. Sometimes I get lazy, and it's easier just to turn off the audiobook and listen to music. And sometimes I just want to not listen to music anymore and just listen to my own thoughts. Believe it or not, entertaining my own thoughts is really rather interesting. I get a thrill out of it. There's something satisfying about sort of sitting in silence and thinking my own thoughts and, enjoying the processes of my mind as they unfold. There's something really satisfying and enjoyable about it. More enjoyable than listening to music. I know. Here's the thing about listening to music on the radio. You never really know what you're going to get. You don't know. I mean, sometimes you'll listen for 5, 10, 15 minutes and a song that is even passably interesting to you doesn't play. It's a real possibility. It happens all the time. Sometimes I imagine how nice it would be for me to obtain some kind of digital satellite radio service like Sirius or XM radio. And I'm not even sure if those two kinds of radio sources exist anymore. But I think it would be nice to have access to that kind of subscription. My radio would allow for a service like that to happen. I could check it out. I could check out how much subscription costs. Chances are it would be a little bit more money than I'm prepared to pay. I'm already paying for subscriptions to music services. I pay for subscriptions to iMusic, that's the Apple system, and through Google Play. And I truly have access to unlimited amounts of music. And, probably makes no sense for me to also subscribe to Sirius or XM radio. I already have the world's content of music at my fingertips using 2 different services. Yeah, it's almost ludicrous to consider adding more to my music selection. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up. I want to say thank you very much for indulging me today. I hope you learned something about me through this question and answer period. I hope you got to know me a little bit better. Maybe you got a better sense of who I am and how I'm thinking and what's on my mind. And I want to wish you a wonderful day today. I want to remind you that I love you and that I think you're fabulous. And I'm really hopeful that we can get together again sometime and have a conversation and have some fun together. All right. I'll talk to you later, girl. I love you. Peace out.